In this video, we will have a look at equations. Before we get started, as usual, I would just like to remind you on how you do mathematics. Number and copy the examples and ask your teacher if there are any steps that you do not understand. And unless you have the ability to get fit while watching someone else run, you must do the questions on your own before watching the answers. Then mark your answers. If it is incorrect, write down the corrections and make sure you understand where you went wrong, because this will enable you to do better the next time you attempt a similar sum. Right, so let's get started. This is an overview of everything we'll be doing. First, we'll be solving equations using inverse operations, then equations with variables on both sides, then equations involving brackets, then equations with fractions, then equations involving products of two factors, and finally we'll be using equations to solve problems. For the first, solving equations using inverse operations, we've got these two simple examples. And for the first one, we see that we have 5x equal to 50. Now remember, when we solve equations, we want to get the x on its own because we want to know what is x's value. So if the value that's here with x, if it is multiplied to x, like we have in this case, we've got 5 times by x. To get rid of this 5, what I need to do is I need to divide by 5. But what I do on the one side, I have to do on the other side. So therefore, if I divide both sides by 5, this side it will cancel. Then on this side, we'll have 5 go into itself once and into 15 3 times, or I can just simply say what is 15 divided by 5, and that gives me 3. So therefore, x will then be equal to 3. Alright, so that's quite simple. Now, in example B, in this example, I have p plus 8. So if I want p on its own, what I do is to get rid of this 8, I subtract 8. Now, another way to think about it is just to take 8 over to the other side. Then it becomes a negative 8. Alright, so then we have p equals to 2 minus 8. So that's the one way. The other way, like I said, if we subtract 8 on both sides, if I say minus 8, then this plus 8 minus 8 becomes 0. And on this side, we'll have 2 minus 8. But for the sake of the next section, it's easier to think about it. If you have an 8 on this side and you want to get p on its own, you take 8 to the other side and it becomes a negative. Whenever you take something over the equal sign, it changes sign. So in our case, p is then equal to negative 6. Okay, now here we have 4n plus 3 equals to 35. So notice that here n is both multiplied by a number and a number is added to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is to get rid of this 3. So I can't get rid of this 4 yet. I first have to get rid of this 3. So in order to do that, I'm going to take the 3 to the other side. Then I have 4n is equal to 35. And when I take it over, it becomes negative 3. So now I have 4n is equal to 32. And then to get rid of this 4, I divide both sides by 4, which then cancels. And n is then equal to, so 32 divided by 4 is 8. So n is equal to 8. So here are 3 for you to do on your own. Okay, so for A, we have 2a plus 15 equals 27. So this 15 goes to the other side. So then I have 2a is equal to 27 minus 15. So if I subtract 15 from 27, then I get 12. Alright, and then to get rid of this 2, I divide both sides by 2, and then I get a is equal to 6. For B, I have a over 4 minus 4 equals to 6. So the first thing I'm going to get rid of is this negative 4. And when I take it over to the other side, it becomes a plus. So this is then a over 4 is equal to 6 plus 4. Okay, so a over 4 is equal to 10. Now I have this 4 to get rid of. Now this 4 is divided. A is divided by that 4. So what do I do to get rid of something that's divided? I multiply both sides by that number, because then this will cancel with that one. and then I just have A equal to 40. Okay, now for C, here we have P over 12 plus 4 equals to 1. So now in order to get P on its own, the first thing I need to do is get rid of this 4 by taking it over. Then it becomes a negative. So now I have P over 12 is equal to 1 minus 4. And then P over 12 is equal to negative 3. And now to get rid of this 12, because it's divided, I have to times both sides by 12. So then this and this would cancel, and P is then equal to negative 36. Okay, so for D, now we want the W. So there's one of two ways. You can basically solve for W by just taking the 11 over and then divide both sides by 8. Let's do that. So if I take 11 to this side, then it is 21 plus 11, because its sign changed, is equal to 8W. Then 21 plus 11 gives me 32 equal to 8W. Then I divide both sides by 8 so that I can get rid of this 8 that is next to this W. So W is then equal to 4 when I say 32 divided by 8. Now for E, the first thing I do is take the 25 over. So I've got 3x is equal to 7 minus 25. So 3x is equal to, so this is 18, so this is negative 18, and then divide both sides by 3, and then I get x is equal to 6, negative 6. Okay, then F, so I need to solve for n. First thing I do is take the 6 over, so 4n is equal to negative 38 minus 6. So 4n is then equal to negative 44, right? Then divide both sides by 4, and I get n is equal to negative 11. Then for G, I want to solve for y, so the first thing that goes over is the 10. So we have y over 4 equals to positive 10, and then to get rid of this 4, I need to multiply both sides by 4. So then y is equal to 40. Okay, so that was basically solving equations using the inverse operations. Now moving on to this example, here we have equations with variables on both sides, meaning here we have an x over here and an x over here. So what we want to do is we want to get all our x's on the left hand side, and we want to get all our constants on the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is here that I have my x over here, I'm going to bring it to the left hand side. So I have 3x, but when I bring it over, it needs to change sign. So here it's plus x, so now it becomes negative x. And my constants, I want on the right hand side. So that one comes over here. So I've got minus 4 already. But then when I take my minus 6 to this side, it becomes plus 6. Okay, now that we have all our x's on this side and all our constants on this side, we add our like terms. So 3 minus 1 gives me 2x. And then minus 4 plus 6 gives me plus 2. Then I simply go with what I know from the previous examples, where if I want x on its own, then I need to get rid of this 2. And to do that, I just divide by 2 both sides. So these guys cancel, x, and then 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. Okay, now for this example, so I want all my x's on the left hand side. Over here we already have the 2x, but now 5x comes over and it becomes negative 5x. And then here we have negative 3, and then the 9 goes over to that side and becomes negative 9. Alright, so now 2 minus 5 gives me negative 3x, and then negative 3 minus another 9 gives me negative 12. So now I need to get rid of this negative 3, and I need to divide it by this whole negative 3, alright? And then also divide by negative 3. So negative 3 and negative 3 cancels, which leaves me with x. And then a minus and a minus is a plus. So 12 divided by 3 is then going to be 4. So negative 12 divided by negative 3 is going to be positive 4. Okay, so for A, we have 3x equals to x plus 7. So I need to take this x to this side so that all my x's are on the left-hand side. That becomes a negative x equals to 7. So subtract, we get 2x is equal to 7. And then if I divide both sides by 2, I get x is equal to 7 over 2. For B, I have an x over here, so bringing all my x's to the left-hand side gives me negative 2x. That negative 3x coming over becomes a plus, so that's plus 3x on the left-hand side equals to negative 5. And now if I say minus 2 plus 3, that gives me plus 1. So that's just x is equal to negative 5, and then we're done. So for C, this x needs to come over to this side. Then I have 9x minus 10x, which is equal to negative 4. Right, and when I do that, I get negative 1. 9 minus 10 is negative 1, so that's negative x equal to negative 4. And then to get rid of this negative, I need to divide by minus 1. So that gives me x equals to 4. For D, I have a constant on this side, which I want to take that side, and I've got a x over here, which I want to bring to my left-hand side. So doing that, I've got 2x, and then this x, which is positive here, becomes negative here. And then minus 4, this one becomes negative on the other side. Add my like terms, 2 minus 1 is just 1, so that's just x equal to minus 4 minus 1 is minus 5. So for E, I have an x on both sides and I have a constant. So obviously this constant's going that way, this x is coming this way. So I have 3x, bringing the x over becomes negative, equal to 9. And that 5 becomes positive on the other side. So I've got 2x is equal to 9 plus 5 is 14. And then if I divide both sides by 2, I get x is equal to 7. For F, I bring all my x's to the one side. So here we already have negative 3x. Then if I bring this minus x over, it becomes plus x on this side. And then we already have 10 over there. And then if I bring this 40 over this side, where it was a positive here, it now becomes a negative 40. So adding the like terms, minus 3x plus x gives me negative 2x, equal to 10 minus 40 gives me negative 30. And then dividing both sides by negative 2 will give me x is equal to positive 15, because a negative and a negative gives me a positive. Then for G, I have to solve for p. So on this side we've got negative 6p, and then bringing this p over becomes plus 3p, which is then equal to that 29, which is already there. And then bringing the 17 over becomes negative 17. So here we have negative 6 plus 3 gives me negative 3p, equal to then 29 minus 17 is 12. Yep, that's 12. And then divide by negative 3. So p is then equal to negative 4, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And then finally for H, we have two m's over here, and one m that's already on the left hand side. So this is going to be 4m. Bringing these two over, this is a negative 2m, so it becomes a positive 2m on this side. That's plus 5, which becomes minus 5m, equal to, so 28. Then this 12 comes to this side, and it becomes negative 12. Now just adding my like terms, I've got 4 plus 2 is 6, minus 5 is 1. So this is just m. And then on this side we have 28 minus 12, and that is equal to 16. So m is equal to 16. Okay, now for I, so to solve for y, this side we already have 5y, so we have 5y, and then we bring this y over, becomes negative y. Then it's equal to, we've got negative 2 over here, and then bringing the 12 over becomes negative 12. So 5y minus y is 4y, and that's equal to negative 14. Okay, and then divide both sides by 4. This is then y equal to negative. I can just simplify this. 2 can go into 4 twice, and then into 14 7. So this is 7 times. So this is negative 7 over 2. Then for j, I'm going to bring this 3 over. So I've got negative 5m minus 3m is equal to negative 17 minus another 7. When I bring this 7 over to that side, I've got negative 8m equal to, so negative 17 minus another 7 gives me negative 24. Alright, and then dividing both sides by negative 8. So m, these guys cancel. M is equal to negative and negative gives me a positive, but then 24 divided by 8 is 3. Then j, k, then it's k. So negative 3 on this side already. And then bring that 2 over, becomes negative 2y. And then we have negative 8. This 2 needs to go to the other side, becomes negative 2. So minus 3 minus another 2 gives me negative 5y. And then minus 8 minus another 2 gives me negative 10. Now dividing both sides by negative 5 will then give me, when these guys cancel, y equals to positive 2. And then finally for L, so here's an n, there's an n, there's an n. So I have negative 4n plus 3n, which is already on the left hand side. Bring the negative 5 over, becomes plus 5n, equal to, so this is 20. And then take this 2 over, becomes plus 2. Okay, then minus 4 plus 3 gives me negative 1. And then minus 1 plus 5 is going to be equal to 4n. Alright, that's equal to 22. Then dividing both sides by 4, that gives me n equal to, so 2 once again goes in there twice and in there 11 times, so this is n equal to 11 over 2. Okay, so that was the equations with variables on both sides. Now let's look at equations involving brackets. And for example 3.1, we need to solve for x once again. But in this case, you will notice that we have these brackets over here. Now, before we can go ahead to solve for x, we need to get x out of this bracket some way. So what we're going to do is whatever is in front of the bracket, we need to multiply out. So I'm going to take this 3 and multiply it into the bracket, and I need to take it to both of these terms. So this then becomes 3x minus 12 plus 5 equals to x plus 3. Alright, and then at this point we are basically back to where we were with the previous examples, where you just need to get both x's on, or all the x's on the left hand side. So here we have 3x. Now we only have this other x which we need to bring over, that becomes negative x, and then equal to, so on this side we've got a 3, and then we bring this 12 over, which becomes plus 12, the 5 becomes negative 5. Adding our like terms, we get 2x equal to, so 3 plus 12 is 15, minus 5 gives me 10. Then I divide both sides by 2, and I get x equal to 5. Okay, so same example, just slightly bigger. Right, we have brackets over here and so on. So in order to get rid of all those brackets, we need to multiply them out first. So this 3 I'm taking into both of these terms. Then this 2, but just notice that this is a negative 2. So this negative 2 needs to go in here and here. This negative sign goes in, and then this negative 2 goes in. Right, let's get started. So this becomes 3x plus 6. All right. Then this minus 2 gets multiplied in, and it becomes negative 2x. Now a minus and a minus gives me a plus. 2 times 5 is 10. Then taking this negative in becomes negative x. Minus and minus gives me plus 2. And then minus 2 times x is negative 2x. minus 2 times by positive 3 is negative 6 plus 11. Okay, now before I'm going to start by taking things over, I'm just going to simplify it first a bit. Alright, so I'm going to just, for now, just add these like terms and also add my constants. And then do the same on the right hand side. So I've got 3 minus 2 gives me 1, and then minus another 1. So all of this actually adds up to 0. And then over here, I've got 6 plus 10 gives me 16, and then plus 2 is 18. So over here we've got 18, and then here we have the negative 2x minus 6 plus 11. That gives me 5. So plus 5. Now, see, this is much simpler than if we had written everything over and brought the x's over and the constant. So now we can just bring this 2x over to the other side. That gives us a positive 2x, and then plus 5, and take the 18 over to the other side, which becomes negative 18. Then 2x is equal to negative 13, and then dividing both sides by 2 gives me x equal to negative 13 over 2. That's my final answer. Okay, now A, first we start off by multiplying out this bracket. That gives us 2y plus 10 is equal to y plus 25. Right, so I bring my y over this way, so 2y minus y is equal to 25 minus 10. When this 10 goes over to that side, it changes sign. We have y equal to 25 minus 10 gives me 15. That's my answer. For B, I'm going to multiply this bracket out and this bracket out. That gives me 8m plus 36. If I say 4 times 9, then plus 3m and minus 12 equal to 3m. Now, at this point, you can choose. Do I want to take my m's over or bring this m over here? Let's actually do that because they're not that much. So let's say 8m plus 3m, which is this side. Then bring the negative 3m over, equal to, so take the 36 over, it becomes negative 36. Take the 12 over, it becomes plus 12. This plus 3 and minus 3 just adds to up to 0. So now I have 8m over here. Now, negative 36 plus 12. The difference between these two are 24. So this is negative 24. And then just divide both sides by 8. And I get m equal to negative 3. C. So once again, multiply your brackets out before you do anything else. So that's 7x plus 21 plus 3x plus 1 equal to 2x minus 26. Okay. So let's just, for this one, add our like terms before we take anything over. So 7x plus 3x gives me 10x. 21 plus 1 gives me 22 equals to 2x minus 26. All right. So now to get all our x's on the left hand side, we've got 10x, then bring the 2 over, that becomes negative 2x equal to negative 26 minus another 22 when I take the 22 over. This gives me 8x equal to, and then if I go back 26 and I go back another 22, I get negative 48. Okay, then dividing both sides by 8, I have x equal to, so these guys cancel, that's going to be a negative number, then 6. So the 48 divided by 8 is 6. Now for D, multiplying this 2 in over here gives me 4y minus 2, negative 3y equal to 4 minus y. Okay, so let's bring the y's to the one side. So this becomes plus y, and then 4 plus 2. So 4 minus 3 gives me 1, plus 1 is 2y. And that's equal to 6. Then divide both sides by 2 gives me y equal to 3. For e, we take these brackets, or we multiply those brackets in these and these. So I have 4x minus 4 plus 4x minus 6 minus 2 equal to 15 minus x plus 9 minus 3x. Okay. Right. So before I'm going to take anything over, I'm just going to add my like terms on both sides. So here we have 8x. Then minus 4 minus 6 gives me negative 10. Minus another 2 gives me negative 12. And then here we have minus x minus another 3x gives me negative 4x. And then 15 plus 9 is equal to 24. So that's plus 24. Okay, so now we have 8x, bring the 4 over, becomes plus 4x equal to 24. And then bring the 12 over, becomes plus 12. So here we have 12x equal to 24 plus 12 gives me 36. So now if I divide both sides by 12, I get these guys cancelling. X is then equal to 3. And that is done for the brackets. Let's move over to fractions. Right, now in this case, what we've seen earlier, what we did was we said let's take the 2 over to the other side and then multiply with 4. Another way we can look at this is to immediately get rid of the fraction by simply taking whatever is in fraction form, you multiply through. So to get rid of a 4, you have to multiply by 4. So do that right through your equation, straight through with each and every term, which then cancels that. So this is then just x, and then that becomes 8 when you say 2 times 4, and that's equal to 28. Okay, so in this instance, or in this method, you immediately get rid of your fractions, which is a good thing, because fractions complicate matters, so you want to get rid of them as soon as possible. So it's your choice if you get a sum like this, what you want to do first. In this case, we just take the 8 over, so this is then equal to 28 minus 8, which then gives us x equal to 20. All right, now in this case, we don't have a choice. Here we have to get rid of the fractions first thing. Now, when I look at 4, 8, and 2, this is, I need to get my lowest common denominator, okay? And then just multiply through with it. So remember when we did algebraic fractions, we got our lowest common denominator, but then we put everybody over it. When we have an equation, meaning we've got an equal sign over here, this is much easier than our algebraic fractions, because now instead of putting everybody over 8, all you have to do is just to multiply everybody with your lowest common denominator, which in our case is 8. All right, and then you just cancel. So 4 can go into itself once and into 8 2 times. I'm just going to put the 2 there, and then 8 cancels. The 2 goes into itself once and into 8 4 times, and then 1 times 8 is 8. Okay, so let's just write that down, because the moment we've done that, we've gotten rid of all our fractions. So here we have 2, which was left over here, which is now y plus 3, and then minus, so 8's cancelled, so you just have that y plus 2 left, but very important, leave your brackets there when it's a negative, and then that's equal to, this is now 4y minus 8. Okay, so voila, we got rid of our fractions, and now we just have an equation which we saw with the previous examples. Now we just start by multiplying out our brackets. So this gives me 2y plus 6 minus y minus 2 equal to 4y minus 8. Bring all your variables to the left hand side, so it's 2y minus y minus 4y equal to minus 8. 6 goes over, becomes minus 6. 2 goes over, becomes plus 2. And add your like terms. So 2 minus 1 is 1, minus another 4 is negative 3y, equal to minus 8 minus another 6 is negative 14. Negative 14 plus 2 is negative 12. Okay, divide both sides by negative 3. Then y is equal to 4. Okay, so for A. Now, I want to get rid of my fractions, and between 3 and 3, lowest common denominator is basically just 3. So if I multiply through with 3 each and every term, then I've immediately gotten rid of my fractions, because those will cancel, that just becomes 3x, and these two will cancel. So what am I left with? I'm left with 4x is equal to 3x minus 1. Okay, so take the x over, I got 4x minus 3x equal to negative 1. So this is then x equal to negative 1. So that was quite easy. Now for B, so if I put this over 1, and my lowest common denominator between 4 and 2 is 4, so basically I'm just going to multiply each and every term with 4. That for this term gives me 4p. Here we'll just cancel the 4's, which just leaves us with 3. And then over here we've got 4, and then this 2 goes into itself once and into 4 twice. So there we're left with plus 2p. Okay, bring the p's over, so 4p minus 2p is equal to 4 minus 3. When I bring the 3 over, this gives me 2p equal to 1. And then when I divide both sides by 2, I get p is equal to a half. Next up, we've got C, and between 3 and 2, my lowest common denominator is 6. So what am I going to do is multiply each and every term with a 6, and then cancelling means that 3 goes into itself once and into 6 2 times, and then 2 goes into itself once and into 6 3 times. So what is left? We've got 2b for this one minus 3b equal to 24. When I say 4 times 6. So if I subtract these, I get negative b equal to 24. Then to get rid of this negative, I divide both sides by negative 1. Then b is equal to negative 24. For D, so here everything, all our fractions, all the fractions are over 7. So I'm just simply going to multiply through with a 7. Okay, keeping this in brackets. Then this 7 cancels with that one. This is just going to become 14. This becomes 7y, and then this 7 cancels with that one. So putting that down, we've got y, then minus 14 equal to 7y, and then plus 4 minus 3y. Now I don't have to put that brackets there because this is just a plus. Okay, multiplying a plus just keeps the signs the same. If this was a minus, I'd have to keep my brackets there and just first multiply out the minus. Okay, now as we've been doing, all my y's comes to the left hand side. This becomes negative 7y plus 3y equal to 4. Take the 14 over, it becomes plus 14. Then 1 minus 7 is negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3y, and then 4 plus 14 is 18. So if I divide both sides by negative 3, I get y equal to negative 6. Right, so E. We have 2, 3, 2. Lowest common denominator is 6. So I'm going to say multiply by 6, and multiply by 6. Then cancel. 2 goes into itself once and into 6 3 times. 3 goes into itself once and into 6 2 times. 2 goes into itself once and into 6 3 times. So what I have is then 3, this 3, multiplied by this 2x minus 3, plus 2 multiplied by x plus 1, and then equal to 3 multiplied by 3x minus 1. Multiply out the brackets, so this becomes 6x minus 9, then plus 2x plus 2 equal to 9x minus 3. All right. So let's just, for the next step, add our like terms here. We've got 8x minus 9 plus 2 gives me negative 7 equal to 9x minus 3. So now taking the 9 over, I've got 8x minus 9x equal to negative 3 plus 7. This is negative x equal to 4, and then x is equal to negative 4. Okay. Then for f, lowest common denominator is 6, so I have to multiply through with 6 each and every term. Okay. Then this becomes 3 goes into itself once and into 6 2 times. Then 2 goes into itself into 6 3 times, and these guys would cancel. Now over here, this term, we have 4x, or 2 times 2x. Let's just write that down, 2 times 2x. And then over here, we've got 3 times by x plus 2. And then that's plus 3 times 6 is 18 equal to 1 times 6 is 6, and then plus just that 3x minus 2, because we just have a plus there and this 6 cancelled out. Alright, so this is then 4x plus 3x plus 6 plus 18 equal to 6 plus 3x minus 2. Now adding my like terms on both sides, I've got 7x here, and then 6 plus 18 gives me 24. And then 6 minus 2 is 4 plus 3x. Bring the 3x this side, 7x minus 3x equal to 4 minus 24. So this is then 4x equal to negative 20. Then divide both sides by 4. Gives me x equal to negative 5. Okay, so G, 5, 3, 6, 2. What's my lowest common denominator? I believe it's 30. If we have, yeah, so I think it's 30. So multiply through with 30. Not 30. Yeah, multiply through with 30. Okay, now cancel. 5 can go into 36 times. Then 3 goes into 30 10 times. 6 goes into 30 5 times. 2 goes in 15 times. And these guys would just multiply out. So here we have 6x and then plus 10 times by x minus 9. And then plus this 5x equal to 15x plus 30x minus 30. Alright, we need to multiply this brackets out. So 6x plus 10x minus 90 plus 5x equal to 15x plus 30x minus 30. Okay, like terms. So 6 plus 10 is 16, plus 5 is 21x minus 90. Then 15 plus 30 is 45x minus 30. Now bringing my 45 over, 21x minus 45 equal to negative 30 plus 90. So if I have, this had to be an x here. 21 minus 45, or let's just take the difference there. So it's going to be 4, 2, but the biggest one is a negative, so that's going to be negative 24 equal to 60, positive 60. So if I, that's an x, so if I divide, or if I say 60 over negative 24, we know that 6 can go into top and bottom, so 6 goes in there 4 times and in there 10 times. Then I can once again divide both sides, top and bottom, so that 2 can go in there 2 times, and 2 can go in there 5. So my final answer is basically going to be x is equal to negative 5 over 2. Okay, that was fractions. Now let's look at the product of two factors. Now this is quite easy because this is already in factored form. So basically all I need to do, or let's see why it works this way. If I have a times b is equal to 0, then in order to get a 0, either one of these needs to be 0, because if neither are 0, you'll never get a 0. So or a must be equal to 0 or b must be equal to 0. And that's the only way we can get a 0. So in this case, we're going to say if our answer is 0, then either x minus 4 must be equal to 0 or x plus 2 must be equal to 0. So now, if I solve for x in this side, I just take my 4 over, so x is equal to 4. And on this side, if I take my 2 over, then x is equal to minus 2. And that's it. It's that simple. So in this example, I've got my x and then x plus 3. So either x is equal to 0 or x plus 3 must be equal to 0. So here we already see, okay, x must be equal to 0, or if I take my 3 over, x must then be equal to negative 3. Okay, A. So either x minus 2 is equal to 0 or x minus 5 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 2 or x is equal to 5. For B, either 4x minus 1 equals to 0 or x minus 4 equal to 0. So solving for this one, we take the 1 over, so 4x is equal to plus 1, then divide by sides by 4, gives me x is equal to 1 over 4. And on this side, I just need to take the 4 over, so then x is equal to positive 4. And then for C, 2x is equal to 0 or x plus 3 is equal to 0. So if I divide by 2, then 0 divided by 2 is still 0, so x is then equal to 0, or x is equal to negative 3 when I take the 3 over. For D, so this is squared. Now, there's one of two ways we can do this also. We can now say, okay, if I have a square here, I could just take the square root on both sides, and then 0 for the square root of 0 is still 0, and then this square root and this square will cancel. Then I'm just left with 2x plus 1 equal to 0, and take the 1 over, so then 2x is equal to minus 1, and divide both sides by 2, and I have x is equal to negative a half. That's the one way. Or I can expand it. I can say 2x plus 1 and 2x plus 1 equals to 0. So I can say either 2x plus 1 is equal to 0 or 2x plus 1 is equal to 0, and then just solve them, but it's basically the same thing. So x ends up to be a negative half. Okay, that was two factors. And now for problem solving. Okay, so for example 6.1, now in problem solving there's no steps, there's no easy method. There is basically you need to think about the problem and solve it. And what I find easy is if I don't understand the problem is to just start by writing down all the information that they give me, or just to draw pictures about it, of it. Okay, so let's look at this example. So Amy bought 4 tins of tennis balls and emptied them into a practice basket that already contained 7 balls. She now has 27 balls together. How many balls did each tin contain? So let's draw 4 tins, all right? But we don't know how many tins is in each. So let's call that, oh yeah, and then the other thing is to make one of the unknown values a variable. Okay, so if let's say that each tin contains x balls, and we know that they have the same amount of balls, so we can say there's x in there, x in there, x in there, and so on. Now if she already had, now here's her basket, okay, and there's already 7 inside here. Now she throws X amount in there 4 times, okay? So, and then after she threw each of those in there, she now had, so this is then the before, and then after, she had 27. Okay, that should be bigger, but anyway, 27. So how can we put this into an equation that we can solve? We can say that if this what happened, so if we had 7 and then she added X, another X, another X, and another X, then she ended up at the end with 27. So here's our equation that we can simply solve. So by solving this, we see previously we want all our variables on the one side and all our x's on the other, the one side. So on this side, if I add my x's, I've got 7 plus 4x equals to 27. And then I take my 7 to the other side, so I have 4x equal to 27 minus 7. So 4x is equal to 20. And then if I divide both sides by 4, I get that x is equal to 5. So now we know if x is 5, that means there was 5 tennis balls in each of the tin. All right, so that's our final answer. So first, just collect all the data that they give you and just draw pictures if that helps you to understand it better. And then you have to convert it into an equation, which you then just solve. So example 6.2 says Mr. Smith sold all but 10 of his sheep for 500 Rand each. He received 32,500 from the sale. How many sheep did he have? Now, first of all, we can find out how many sheep he sold by simply looking at if he got 32,500 from the sale and he had 500 Rand each per sheep. Then it means if I divide this by 500, then it would give me the amount of sheep that he sold. So if I say 32500 divided by 500, then it means that he sold 65 sheep. Okay, so now if he sold everything except for 10, that means he had 65 plus 10 in the beginning. So that was 75, because he's got 65 that he sold, 10 that he didn't sell, and then so he originally started with 75 sheep. Okay, question 6.1. Tabitha bought 47 balls of wool to knit a jersey. She bought 5 identical pockets of wool and 2 separate balls of wool. How many balls were in each pocket? Okay, so let's just read this again. She bought 74 balls of wool. She bought 5 identical pockets of wool and 2 separate balls of wool. How many balls were in each pocket? So that means if there were a total of 47 and then 5 identical pockets, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then 2 separate balls, so that's plus 2, okay? So that means, once again, we want to know how much is in each of these pockets. So that means let's call that x, okay? So altogether, she has these 5 pockets plus 2 separate balls, which would then give her a total of this 47. So I'm going to say x plus x plus x plus x plus x plus 2 gives me 47. So I can take my 2 over to the other side and then add my x's. So that's 5x equals to 47 minus 2. So that's 5x equal to 45. Divide both sides by 5. And that gives me x is equal to 9. So that means that there are 9. There's 9 balls in each pocket. Okay, Nick is 5 years older than Ben. The sum of their ages is 33. How old is Nick? Okay, so let's say we've got Ben and we've got Nick. All right, so one of these guys I'm going to say is X years old. So let's say since Nick is 5 years older, I'm going to make Ben equal to X. So if Nick is 5 years older, that means whatever Ben's age is, you just add 5 to it, right? Now, if you have the sum of their ages, what does the sum mean? The sum means you add together. So Ben's age plus Nick's age, which is that, should equal to 33. Now we just solve for this. So this is x plus 5 equal to 33. And then to solve for this, take the 5 over and add your x. So that's 2x equals to 33 minus 5. So 2x is equal to 28. Then if I divide both sides by 2, I get x is equal to 14. Okay, so how old is Nick? Nick is x plus 5. We just solved Ben's age as being 14 because x is 14. So therefore, Nick is 14 plus 5. So Nick is then 19 years old. Right, so there are 34 learners in a grade 9 class. The class register shows that there are 4 more girls than boys. How many boys are there in the class? So this is done in exactly the same method that we did previously. If I say boys and girls, then if there are 4 more girls than boys, let's say boys are X amount and girls are 4 more. So how many boys you have and add 4 more girls. That's the amount of girls. Now, altogether, they are 34. So that means if I take my amount for boys and I add the amount for girls, then I get 34 as a total. So this is then 2x plus 4 equal to 34. Then I take my 4 over. 2x is equal to 34 minus 4. So 2x is equal to 30. Divide both sides by 2. And x is equal to 15. So that means there are, the question says how many boys, and we have x boys, and we solved for x over here. So there are 15 boys in the class. So for D, the sum of 3 consecutive numbers is 276. Find these numbers. Okay. Now, when you're working with consecutive numbers, let's say the first one is x. What would be your next one? If I have like 7, 8, and 9, consecutive numbers is just plus 1 plus 1. So my number, any number after x would then just be x plus 1. And any number after x plus 1 is just x plus 1 plus another 1. So in short, this is then just equal to x plus 2. Alright, so the sum of these 3 numbers is 276. So if we have the sum, that means we add them. So that's x plus this number, which is x plus 1, and plus the third number, which is x plus 2. And they equal 276. So let's simplify this and solve for this equation. X plus x, that's 3x. And then taking over the 2 and the 1, so that's 276 minus 2 minus 1. So that's 3x equal to 276 minus 2 is 274, minus another 1 is 273. So now simply dividing both sides by 3, x then is equal to 273 divided by 3. So x is equal to 91. So that means my consecutive numbers are 91, 92, and 93. That was the final section, so we are done.